When you set a boundary in any kind of relationship, the other person has a right not to like it, and they probably won't. But that doesn't make you wrong for setting the boundary. If you have to betray yourself in order to be liked by someone else, then it is probably not a healthy relationship. Boundaries are personal limits that individuals set for themselves to protect their well being, values, and sense of self. Boundaries can be emotional, intellectual, or physical. Boundaries define what a person is comfortable with and what they are not willing to tolerate. Boundaries are key pillars of a healthy relationship. Boundary is something we were never taught to set. In fact, unconsciously, we were taught not to set them. We were made to believe that boundaries are negative. But on the contrary, boundaries are a good way to protect your relationship as it helps to foster deeper connections to others and to ourselves. Boundaries are for every kind of relationship. If you have a relationship that doesn't need any form of boundary, I'm sorry to say, but that definitely is not a healthy relationship. I know setting boundary is a hard thing to do, but it is very important to set them and also to learn how to uphold the boundaries of others. Today, I will teach you 4 signs to know when you have poor boundaries. This is not to judge you, but to encourage you to learn to set boundaries for yourself and to learn how to uphold the boundaries of others, which will in turn help you to have meaningful, beautiful, and long lasting relationship. Come with me. Number one sign is oversharing. Sharing is a process that should be done over time and on the basis of trust. But when a person overshares personal information, it is a clear sign that such a person has poor boundaries. You met someone not too long ago, and in the twinkle of an eye, the person knows every detail about your life. You obviously do not have boundaries. I know some people overshare as a strategy to establish a good relationship with a person. Even though it's a personal decision, it still shows that you lack boundaries. I understand the place of emotional vulnerability with close friends, but I also know that it should be done with discernment. One thing about oversharers is that they expect to get the same in return. If you overshare with someone who doesn't overshare with you, don't be offended. It simply means you lack boundaries and the person don't. Let me quickly put a disclaimer here. This is not to say that you shouldn't fill your close friends in on stuff going on in your life. You absolutely can. But if you know that you constantly overshare, my point is that you lack boundaries and should work on that. Sign number two, passive aggressiveness. A person with poor or no boundaries do not communicate with people directly about how they feel, their needs, their frustrations, and their disappointments. They often communicate their feelings in a passive aggressive manner, bottling up negative emotions towards the person who has made them feel uneasy. They can be resentful, they can talk about the person to a mutual friend, and all of that. Sometimes this passive aggressive behavior stem from the fear of conflict. A person with clear boundaries usually speaks up when their boundaries are crossed. Sometimes it may not be an easy conversation, but they find respectful ways to pass their message across. Passive aggressive behaviors can happen due to many other factors. But my point is, when someone doesn't have good, clear, or no boundaries at all, they usually show their dissatisfaction in a passive aggressive manner. And this is usually because of the fear of conflict or confrontation. Sign number three, violating other people's boundaries. This is quite straightforward. A person with no boundary violate the boundaries of others. Because you have no boundaries, you find it difficult to understand why other people should set boundaries. So you intentionally or sometimes unintentionally violate the boundaries of others. So today, just know that when you ask too many personal questions, have unrealistic expectations from others, go into people's personal space uninvited, take people's stuff without their consent, expect them to tell you every detail of their life when they are not ready to do so, you are not only exceeding your boundaries with them, you too lack personal boundaries. The fourth and the last sign is people pleasing. People pleasing is exactly what it sounds like, people pleasing. It is doing what other people want against your interest, your desires, and your comfort. A people pleaser is always the nicest person in the room. They get to maintain the identity of, oh, that's such a cool person. They can never say no to anyone's request. They overextend themselves just to be in the good books of everyone. This is a clear sign that such a person has poor or no boundaries. People pleasing is draining and exhausting, and I personally do not like this. It is okay to make some sacrifices for people, but it is never okay to people please. In conclusion, I like to say that boundaries are important part of self-care and should be taken seriously. Also, it is important to note that boundaries change and shift based on needs and responses. And from time to time, you should check that you are not crossing your boundaries. There are some very good friendships that has sailed because you thought it was best to let it go, when all that was really needed was to put some boundaries in place and then discuss it respectfully with your friend. So, on the flip side of all of this, please let us learn to speak out and express our displeasure or tell our friends when they are crossing our boundaries. Not everyone does it intentionally. Create no room at all for resentment. Express your boundaries always. If you enjoyed this video, you can watch my other videos and subscribe to this channel. Also click the bell icon so you get notified when I post my next video, which will be very soon. Until then, be a good friend by expressing your boundaries and respecting the boundaries of others. Bye.